Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you all of the books I have read in June. Now June wasn't really a good reading month for me, but I did read quite a few bigger books as well, so this slowed me down quite a bit. The way this works is that we will first talk about some stats that are important for my goal to reach a 0 TBR sometime soon, and then we will talk about the individual books, and I give you like short reviews of the books that I have read. So let's start out with the stats. So I think the most interesting number always is the number of books that I have read, and in June I managed to finish 5 books, which is quite low. It is not the lowest reading month. In January I also only read 5 books, but usually I do read quite a bit more. Then we have the number of books that I have bought, and since I was really busy I didn't really buy many books, so I only bought 1 book to add to my TBR, and that was an audiobook that I also finished. And last but not least, I borrowed 2 new books from the library, and these kind of don't count because I also returned 2 books that I did not read in time. So I kind of just exchanged them, so they don't really matter for the overall TBR reduction in that sense. So if we take all of that together, 5 books read, 1 book bought, 2 books borrowed from the library, but 2 books returned to the library unread, we managed to reduce the TBR in June by 4 books, and that actually is the best I have done all year, sadly. Before that, my best month was May, where I reduced the TBR by 3 books, so well done me. Even though I didn't read a lot, I also just didn't acquire a lot, so that brought down this number quite a bit. So at the beginning of the year, I started out with 47 books on my TBR. Then I did acquire quite a few books for my birthday in January, and so my goal has been to get back to that number, so to be even with where I started the year. And we did achieve that in June, because by the end of June we managed to reach 45 books on the TBR. So I am officially below the number of books where I started the year, which is really good. In comparison to May, I left off that month with 49 books, so minus the 4, we're at 45. So that is it for the monthly stats, and now let's talk about those 5 books. The first book I finished in June was an audiobook, and that was The Bitter Twins by Jen Williams. This is the second book in the Winnowing Flame trilogy, and I am participating in a read-along for these books. We were supposed to read the second book in May, but I had to carry it over a tiny little bit into June. In this book series, we're following a world where there is 2 kinds of people. We have Aborans that are kind of a mixture of vampires and elves, and then we have humans, and there is an alien force called the Drulia who at random intervals attack this world, and the Aborans are usually the ones to fight these invaders off. But there has been something happening with the Aborans. They have this tree god, and after the last attack the tree god has died, and now they kind of are out of the thing that gave them their life force, and so the Aborans have started to die off, and now the question is, if the enemy ever comes back, who will actually fight them, because there's not too many Aborans left. The second book was really good as well. I enjoyed it a tiny little bit less than the first book, just because the first book had so many mysteries about the world that were so intriguing, and I love our little trio of characters that we're mainly following, Vintage, Tor and Noon, and they have such an interesting dynamic. Now in the second book they kind of got split up, and also we do have a little bit of a bigger cast, which I enjoy, but because they were split up for quite a while of the book, it was also a little bit sad, and I felt like a lot of the plot was a bit more meandering, just because these characters didn't really know what to do. There wasn't like a textbook to tell them how to deal with what they're dealing with, so they just had to go out and find answers, and it was all more a little bit chaotic than the first book, but I still gave it 4 stars and I really liked it. Then the next book I finished was also carried over from May, and that was Sunbringer by Hannah Kaner. I finally finished this one as well. This is also the second book in a series, and this one we are following a world where gods are forbidden, and we follow a woman called Kissen who is a god killer. She goes around the world to kill off new gods that are created when people just start believing in something, and because the gods had gotten so powerful that there was like a terrible war that's just not allowed anymore. And Kissen meets a young girl called Inara, and Inara is connected to a god, which is unheard of because gods usually have altars but not people they're connected to. So they kind of go on this adventure. There's also like a former knight, now turned baker. They meet along the way, and this is like a little trio we follow in this series. Now, in this book, again, these characters got split up a little bit, which a lot of people didn't really enjoy about the second book. I didn't really have an issue with that. I think that the individual development all of these characters went through in this book was very, very important, and something they couldn't have done when they would have been all together in a way. There was a lot of stuff to figure out. We do get quite some twists at the end. Some I saw coming, others not so much. So yeah, it was overall a very enjoyable read. Again, one I liked a tiny little bit less than the first book, but I also still gave it 4 stars. And then I finished my last carried over book from May, and that was The Tangleroot Palace by Marjorie Liu. This is a short story collection with 7, I think. Yeah, I think 7 short stories that are all in the fantasy genre. Marjorie Liu is one of the co-creators of the Monstrous comics, as you can see from the beautiful cover that was designed by her co-creator, Sana Takeda, but this is actual text, like this is short stories that Marjorie Liu has written over quite a few years. Some of these short stories are connected to some of her other books, others are not, but you can definitely enjoy all of these without having read the books, because I haven't. This one I really enjoyed. I think that some of these stories I absolutely loved. One of them I had even read before because it is also in a collection that I own. And some of these, like most of these, do have these fairy tale vibes, which I'm absolutely obsessed with. I do love a dark, like retold fairy tale in a short story. Others were a little bit more out there. Like there was one that is like a alternate history where China has colonies in the US. There was another one that has this kind of like settlers or Western feeling to it, but is actually a dystopian story. So there is quite a mix of stories in here. I did really enjoy all of them, some more than others, and overall I would recommend this collection if you do like this kind of like more dark fairy tale-esque feminist writing style. And in the end I gave this one 4 stars, more like 4.25 stars if I take the average of all the stories, and I really, really recommend. And then I finished the last 2 books of the month on the last day of the month, and the first one was my next audiobook, The Madship by Robin Hobb. Again, we have a second book in a series. This one is the Life Trip Traders series in the broader realm of the Elderlings series of Robin Hobb. In this one we follow a world where there's life ships, basically when 3 captains of one family have died on this ship, the ship comes to life, and we see the Vestrid family as their ship quickens. It's the Vivacia, and when they are young they're still quite impressionable, but yeah, things happen within the family that lead to Vivacia being taken over by someone who's not directly from the family. And the first book was quite a bit to get through, to be honest. Like, these books are very big and there are some very despicable characters in this series. I did like this second book more because some of the characters kind of got what they deserved, and some others do show the character development that I'm now very interested in, and I feel like we get a more clear like villain or evil thing we have to fight. So I felt like also the storylines were a little bit more streamlined, where we now know where the characters are going. In the first book it was all just a little bit meandering and the characters mainly causing problems for themselves, which is just something I don't really love. So yeah, I gave this second book 4.5 stars and I'm ready to read the last one soon. And then the last book to talk about is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. This is a historical fantasy set in the Conqueror's time in Spain, and it follows a young girl called Lucia, and she has magical powers. She is from a Jewish family, and her family was forced to I don't know the English words, transition over to Christianity, but in her heart she doesn't believe in that, and so she has to hide parts of herself so not to be targeted. But her magic is very dangerous because it can be interpreted as miracles but also as witchcraft, and when her talents are discovered by her mistress, her boss, basically, she gets sucked into this world of like power and politics and also this like religious aspect of the Inquisition. And I really enjoyed this one. I did like this more than most people, I think. I really just love Leigh Bardugo. Like the first half of this book was a tiny little bit slow. We get to know the characters and we see Lucia slowly being pulled into all of it, and then the second book was much more interesting and engaging and a lot of things happening and a lot of horrible things happening. This is definitely an adult novel. There is torture in this one because we talk about the Inquisition, but also like other bad things. Like this also talks about the parents of the main character, how they have died before the book starts and stuff. So definitely a sad read, but yeah, I really enjoyed it and I loved the ending. I think the ending was done really, really well, and I gave this one 4.5 stars as well. I think I gave it 4.5 stars officially. And that were all the books that I have read in June. Definitely let me know what your favorite read of June was. I would love to hear about it. And I will talk to you soon, hopefully with having more books read in July. Bye!